So without any further ado, please welcome Miss Carly Adam. Miss Adam, the floor is yours.
Hey there. First of all, I want to thank you for hosting this event, giving us a chance to speak because that's few and far between right now. I want to start also by thanking every person that is employed by the White County school system. They're doing incredible things every single day, and despite the adversity that they're facing, they still continue to come out on top, and I'm super proud of that and very proud to be part of a product of White County school system and part of this community. I also want to thank the first responders and healthcare workers. They're leaving their houses every day and going out into the unknown, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Um, Now, a little bit about me. My name is Carly Adam. Like James said, I'm running for White County Board of Education Chairman. I'm a native of White County and a product of the White County school systems. My family has been part of the Mossy Creek area of our community for generations. I completed my studies at Georgia Southern University. I did their online program. I have a degree in sociology and a minor in justice studies. I am employed at Pioneer RESA, which gives me the opportunity to be at ground zero for education in the state of Georgia. Being employed there and in my job role, I have had the opportunity to be in constant contact with legislators, with Department of Education employees, with State Board of Education members, and I feel that those relationships that I have formed at the state level and even on a national level will bring a unique perspective and a unique quality to the Board of Education. Currently, I am serving on State School Superintendent Richard Wood's Parent Advisory Council. I'm holding this position with only about 30 other parents across the state of Georgia. The application process included interviews and a question answer process, and then we were chosen from a pool of many, many parents, and I am lucky to be one of those parents representing White County. My past education experience includes being the assistant director at a private preschool in Metro Atlanta. We served children birth to, we had a private pre-K and we had a private kindergarten as well. Then I wanted to come a little closer to home, so I got a job working in a classroom with emotional behavior disorder children and children with autism. I worked in the K through second grade classroom and the sixth through eighth grade classroom. And as I stated before, now I'm at RESA. From the parent perspective, my experience in education is I have been the PTO president, vice president, and secretary, of course, not all at the same time, and also a governing council member voted on by the parents to serve the school. I am married and I have three children, one at White County Middle School, one at Mossy Creek Elementary School, and our beautiful daughter that we adopted is 16 months old now. So I am dedicated to the continued success of our school system. We're going to be there for a while. One thing that's important to me is balancing the needs of the education system and our community. So that's why I'm going to commit to you to be a visible and active board member in our community. Collaboration and communication are also important to me. And another thing I can commit to is I'm going to communicate and be active and visible at different county organizations and meetings. So our county commissioners, our mayor, our city council, our chamber, our sheriff's office, we all need to have a relationship and have the same goals to make our community better, because eventually these students are going to be leaders in our community and we all need to work together and kind of have the same goals and visions for that. With all of the experience and the relationships that I have, I feel that I have a responsibility to use those and create the best possible opportunities for White County students and White County as a whole. Um, it's kind of been short and sweet. I know that me speaking has not been 10 minutes long, but I'm going to end it with asking for your vote. I will lead your system. I will communicate. I will be an active and visible board chair. And my roots run deep in this county and in this community, and I am vested in White County schools and in White County.
We do have several people watching it live, but there are no questions yet.
James, I
So,
think your mic's on mute.
oh,
It's off, I think.
sorry about that. Am I on now?
Good.
Okay, sorry about that. At this point in time, there are no questions for Ms. Adam. However, if we receive any, like I said at the end, we'll come back and ask those questions. So I do apologize for not having it at this time, though.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on to the next candidate then. So, Mr. Michael Boggus, you have the floor.
Okay. Thank you for having me today. I actually forgot about this one in particular. My name is Michael Boggus, and I am running for the congressional 9th district. I have a lot of company to run against. I'm coming the government in our school system. Our schools are, our kids are indoctrinated. They really are. They're indoctrinated. The worst thing that could ever happen was Jimmy Carter's Board of Education. That's the worst thing in the school system, period. I am pro and I believe communication is key. And every politician that I can think of has always voted for the wealthy. So that's a problem to me. Our district is middle class to poverty. We need somebody in there to represent the nobodies. I'm a nobody to represent the nobodies, the ones that's forgotten, the ones that they only come to you when it's election time. I'm here to represent them. The main thing you can do is follow the money, see who's getting the most, then you know who's bought and paid for it. I personally, when the COVID started, I personally made a post saying I will not accept donations at all. I don't care if it's $1 or what? I will not accept it. So with me, like I said, what you see is what you get. You're either gonna love me, hate me, or want to assassinate me. If you think they hate Trump, they're really gonna hate me. I'm gonna be in their face. I'm not a negotiator. I'm not going there to negotiate our rights away. I'm going there to fight for them. I keep getting these stupid surveys of what legislation would I like to do. How about a little bit of legislation on reduction of the government overreach? How about we get rid of NFA, ATF? Let's get rid of the IRS. They're not even a government entity. You don't pay them, they'll come get your house, though. Like I said, there's too many hands in the cookie jar, and I'm over there. I'm ready to go slap their hands. So, with that being said, if y'all have any questions, I'm always here to answer. You can look me up on Facebook. It's just Michael Bogus. You can hit me up on boggusforcongress.com. It's BOGGUS for Congress.com. I don't have the fancy politician endorsements. I do have, however, got endorsements from Colt Ford, Hodgins Twins, and Eric Roberts. I mean, I do have some endorsements. I just don't have the fancy political ones. So, with that being said, y'all, hit me up. I'm eager to answer questions and try to help you as much as I possibly can. Thank you, James.
Okay. Okay.
Hey, James.
Sorry.
You muted
We
yourself again.
we still don't have any questions submitted. I apologize for that. We do have, looking
Oh,
at
it's
it
fine.
right now, we have 14 people viewing it on Facebook Live. So again, if you're viewing it on Facebook Live and you have any questions for our candidates, don't hesitate to submit those. But at this time, we'll go on to the next candidate, Robert Crumely. Robert, you have the floor. Oh, and if I might say
Well, thanks
something
for
real
hosting this
quick,
event,
I'm
James.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, Robert. If you're not speaking, can you please mute your video screen? That is something that we just got. So, sorry. This time, Robert, I'll turn it to you now. Sorry.
Thanks, James. Miss Carol, whenever you scroll over your screen, it's where you see the hang up button. It's right there on the left.
Got it.
You're perfect. Thank you.
I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
Close but no cigar, Miss Carol. Can you see me, James? Everybody see me?
Yes.
All right, good deal. So my name is Robert Crumely. I'm born and raised in White County. I'm running for state representative of House District 10, which consists of pretty much half of White, half Habersham County. I'm going to start off from the very beginning of my upbringing, what led me up to my decision to run for office now. My parents divorced when I was 2. I have two older half brothers from Riley and Joyce Turner. And then my mother was the second marriage. Didn't last long, so I was moved out with a single mother at age of 2 when she was, I think, in her early 20s, and moved all over the place in this area, moving from trailer to trailer, and really poor apartment to poor apartment. And I remember not having any air conditioning, living in a place, no internet, no TV, no heat during the winter. We had to use the stove as heat. And, seeing how much my mother had to struggle as a single parent, it really broadened my horizons, and especially when my 2 younger half brothers came along, seeing how hard it was for them to make ends meet with all these mouths to feed in this area because there was no jobs. She was a brilliant girl, but there was just no jobs in this area for her to be able to take care of her and her kids. And so myself and my two younger brothers, we had to share a room while in the single wide trailer. It was my mother and my stepfather, and I don't regret it one bit. It taught me how to work for things, and so it really convinced me at a very young age that I did not want this for myself. I don't want this for other people's family. I'm going to do everything in my power to get out of this hole, get my family out of this hole, and give people the opportunity to empower themselves to help themselves. And so I got 3 jobs when I turned 15. Barrett Funeral Home, worked with Mr. Greene there, and Ingalls Market was a cart pusher, and McDonald's. All 3 jobs I was working while I was in high school. And I was involved in student government electives, JROTC. I was always involved in community outreach programs, either through the church or the American Legion. And I always had a passion for helping people. And I always wanted to try to find my niche. So after high school, I started going to school at North Georgia Tech because I always wanted to be a police officer. And after the first semester, I realized that there's so much bureaucracy involved in our government and within our legislative and judicial systems that there's no discretion left in this, as in the criminal justice field. And so I wanted that really just disheartened me from wanting to accomplish my dream. And as that all was going on, I was working as a machinist at a place called Impulse Manufacturing over in Dahlonega, working during the nights. And one day, I didn't have any school on Friday. We only worked half a week during the week. So I went down to Atlanta to meet my grandfather for lunch. He sells Coke machines, and he was at a trade show at the Marriott Hotel. I was there a little early. I'm wearing a t-shirt and cowboy boots, sitting in the Marriott lounge there, and all these white collar people walking around me. And I felt pretty out of place. But there was this one gentleman I remember in particular. He was wearing a suit, cowboy boots, Rolex Mariner watch, had the cufflinks, the whole 9 yards. And I just went up, and I never meet a stranger, so I just went up and started talking to him. I'm like, hey, I really admire your watch. I noticed you have the Mont Blanc pin there, and I was just wondering where you got your cufflinks. And anyway, we just started talking to each other. Well, saw Donald Trump have his rally in Norcross on the TV there in the lobby, and I looked at that gentleman. I'm like, I wonder what it'd be like to work on Trump's staff. And he's like, you know who I am, don't you? I was like, no, sir. He hands me his business card. He's a Southeast Regional Director for Trump's staff. And when I say I fell into politics, I literally fell into politics. And I thank God every day that happened, because I had no direction in life. And that gentleman told me, he's like, we're putting a staff together in Georgia, and we don't have any positions available, but we're gonna find you something. So after the first semester of college, it was back in 2015, right when it was getting started up. It was about October 2015. I started off as a paid volunteer, driving from Cleveland all the way down to Buckhead every day for not even $8 an hour. But the experience was outweighing. But I've rapidly and quickly proved myself as a volunteer, and just taking the initiative to lead other volunteers. And I was soon promoted to volunteer coordinator, and finished out the general election in Georgia. And I told the staff, I was just like, hey, I'm still dedicated to the cause. The elections, not the general election, the primary. The election's not over. What can I do to ensure GOP victories across the state, if not the nation? And that's when they made me field staff. So I was a field representative for the Trump campaign, and then worked in the 3rd District congressional race, replaced Lynn Westmoreland. And fortunately, that race ended up as a defeat. But after that race, we went off, or excuse me, I went off out to Montana with not knowing a single soul out there, and worked as a field representative for congressional or Congressman Ryan Zinke, traveling all over the nation, or not all over the state, making sure everybody felt adequately represented in Congress, and you know, knocking on doors, putting out signs, doing everything wherever they needed help with. That's what I did. And I was told not to campaign on the Blackfoot Indian Reservation, and I'm like, why? They're like, one, there's no polling location there, and two, there's the Native American turnout is not even 3%, and not even a 0.5% vote Republican. Well, I found that to be very disheartening, because I believe all people have the same right, should have the same right and same opportunity to vote, even though they're voting for the opposite side. So I took up residence. Good old me from White County, Georgia, took up residence on the Blackfoot Indian Reservation in the soul of Browning, Montana. And I'll never forget walking into this establishment. It was the bar restaurant. It was the only one there. It's called Kip's. I'll never forget it. But I walk in there, and everybody looked at me with a death stare. And so I sat there at the bar stool, waiting on to get served, and this gentleman comes up to me, and he's like, "Hey, you know where you're at?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And I was like, "I'm on Custer's land." And oh my gosh, he's like, "Are you kidding me? This is Blackfoot land." And I was just like, "Well, I'm part Native, part Cherokee." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, my great grandfather was chief sitting jackass of the Cherokee Nations." And he just looked at me, and he's like, "You are the funniest white man I've ever met." And that turns out he was the city attorney, and he was wearing those blue jean shorts from like you saw back in the 90s. It was outrageous. But anyway, so he introduced me to these educators, these lawyers, all these people from the reservation, and they were in dire need of federal help. And most of their issues were local issues, just one agency not talking for the other. And when the campaign manager, he's just like, "Hey, we need you to go to Sydney, Montana, or somewhere other," and I'm like, "I would, but I have
You
more
have 1
important
minute
work to
left,
do."
Robert. 1 minute.
All right, thanks.
Sorry.
So anyway, long story short, I set up countless community outreach programs on the Blackfoot Indian Reservation, and I single-handedly, I take total responsibility. This is my greatest achievement. Established polling location in the Blackfoot Indian Reservation, and turned that 3% turnout into a 12% turnout, with that 9 out of 12% voting Republican. And moved back to Georgia, worked with Casey Cagle for governor, and once he lost, worked with Brian Kemp as a volunteer, and then finally got picked up with Jeff Duncan, and then now I work as a sales manager for plastic muscle metal over in county line between Cleveland and White County. So I got a 25-step plan, 5-year plan that I plan on rolling out within the next week or so. It's going to be about a 2-hour video, so I won't discuss it more here, but I'll keep James in the loop, keep everybody in the loop of where you can find it. But James, I appreciate you letting me explain where I came from and how I got to this point.
Thank you, Robert. There actually were 2 questions that were submitted to you, Robert, and there was 1 question for Ms. Adams. So we'll get back to those at the end. At this time, we'll go on to the next candidate, who is Cam Greene. So, Mr. Greene, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jane. I'm excited to be here this evening, talking to you guys, especially with this whole pandemic going on. This is a great way for us to get out and talk, and everybody to see us. I have been a long life resident of White County for 35 years. Just a little bit about my background. I've graduated from high school here in White County, and then I also attended Truett-McConnell College, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in history. And I'm I'm a member of First Baptist Church here in Cleveland, and an active member of Kiwanis Club. My previous work experience, I have held countless jobs from sales and account management positions. Now I own a landscaping company, Green Grass. That's a maintenance and landscaping company, and then I also work at Barrett Funeral Home, where I've been employed there for, it's been, I can't remember how many years, but it's been a while, where me and Mr. Crumely work together. And but I'm running for probate judge here in White County, and probate judge has a wide variety of duties, from administration of wills to guardianships, oaths of office, marriage license, gun permits, traffic cases, and so on and so on. And they hold battle records in their office as well. So where I believe I come in to fit, the correlation between my background in funeral service and probate judge can go hand in hand. I mean, each circumstance is a delicate situation from which I know much about. And understanding the emotions of everyone that comes into the office is a big deal. So I will say that I will neither pre-rule or prejudge on anything, and I'll administer the law in an impartial manner. And my professional background in business and service in the community, I believe, gives me the experience necessary to ensure that I lead the probate office with intelligence and compassion for the people of White County. I'm really running for the position of probate judge so I can serve the fellow citizens of White County. I mean, I feel very passionate about where I live and the community that I live in. And at my age of 35, I believe I can really serve them and be there for a long time to come if the community will have me, such as they've had Garrison Baker for 30 plus years. And I will say, if I do get elected, I will start off very quickly by shadowing Mr. Baker until the day that I take office, and try to learn as much as I can. And while Garrison is there, because you want to learn from the best, and he is the best. So I also believe I possess the following qualities that are essential for success in this position: honesty, compassion. Gotta have compassion, integrity, fairness, and sound judgment. Let's see. I believe that my education, along with my experience in both owning my business and work in the funeral service industry, are solid foundations that further qualify me for the service of this position. And over the years, I've communicated with and helped many people in our own community, and I plan to continue those efforts in the position of probate judge of White County. Let's see, what else? It would be an honor for me to serve as a native of White County, and for the people in this community that I care so deeply about. And I guess that was pretty short and sweet, but I humbly ask for each and every one of y'all's vote, and thank you, James, for having me, and Young Republicans for this. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Greene. There aren't any questions for you at this time, but again, there'll be the 10-minute session at the end. So at this point in time, we'll go on to our final candidate for the evening, Miss Carol Jackson. So, Miss Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, James. Pleasure to be here. Thank you especially to you and the Young Republicans of Northeast Georgia for being so persistent to make this happen. Persistence paid off, otherwise we couldn't have. This is a rough time that we're living in with this pandemic that we're all suffering from. I'm telling you, I am grateful for all the modern technology that we can use to conduct a virtual campaign. That's basically what we're all having to do because we can't be out there and shake hands as has been the tradition for a lot of years. Let me tell you again, my name is Carol Jackson. I'm a lifelong resident of White County. I believe it was Robbie that mentioned earlier his family had been here for several generations, and Carly's as well. So is mine. I think probably the Hoods have too. A long time. They were our neighbors for a long time. So anyway, we all are White Countyans for the most. We're all White Countyans. Some been here forever. Some got here as quick as they could. So otherwise, we're all working hard for a good county and for a wonderful place to be. I attended White County schools all the way through. I was a non-traditional college student. I graduated from college the same time my daughter graduated from high school. It's not the easiest way, but it worked for me. I graduated from Pruitt McConnell College, where I studied business administration. From there, I went to North Georgia College, again studying business administration. I've studied at the University of Georgia for judicial education, continuing judicial education. I've taken numerous courses there over the years. I have North Georgia Technical College. I'm a grant writer. Not something I like to do because you have to be fastened off in a room and be quiet, so I don't do that real well. So, but I am certified to do that. My most recent job was I was the Associate Vice President for North Georgia Technical College. At North Georgia Technical College, I worked with a lot of different programs. Part of what my job was to start up new programs, get them going, and pass them off to somebody else. And I did that. I had to leave the day I qualified to run for probate judge. I left North Georgia Tech and have been campaigning virtually since that time. Before being at North Georgia Tech, I was the deputy director for the North Georgia Mountain Authority. And the North Georgia Mountain Authority was charged at that time by Governor Deal with taking over all the state parks that had lodges because we were losing so much money. So that's where I came into that. Prior to being with there, I was the director of legislative and judicial affairs for the the Department of Juvenile Justice. Get my tongue tangled up here. I worked with the Department of Juvenile Justice for several years. Governor asked me to come work there, Governor Deal, when we were rewriting the juvenile code. So I got a lot of experience in law with that, and I worked with the judges and with the legislature and with the department to make an agreeable code that has worked extremely well for everybody. Prior to that, I was county manager in White County, where I worked for several years during a very difficult time coming out of 2008, working with budgets, getting the budget where it was manageable without having to raise the people's taxes. That was an interesting job, but everybody was so cooperative. We got it done, and we've come out on the top side in White County again. I was state senator for the 50th Senatorial District. That's an 8-county area, which includes White County. I served in that position for 3 terms. As part of that, I was the vice chair of the banking administration. I was the secretary for the natural resources. I worked on all the different committees that brought us all together for rules. It was a very interesting and a very rewarding place to be. But prior to that, I was Superior Court clerk in White County. Not only was I the clerk of Superior Court, I was clerk of the Magistrate Court, I was clerk of the Juvenile Court, and I was also the clerk of the Probate Court for the limited purpose of handling misdemeanors and traffic violations. And that's pretty much my career. I've owned several small businesses during the time. Always had a high energy. I'm grateful for that. I have the qualifications, as you have heard, to be a good probate judge for White County. I love the people of White County. I am committed to the people of White County. My work, as I said, with probate judge gives me a springboard. I was, Mr. Cam mentioned a while ago, the guardianships. I was the guardian for White County. I was appointed as the guardian for White County by Judge Baker. And that was another thing that brought me in with that. The thing I want us to think about is we've talked about, you've got your marriage license, you've got your gun permits, you've got your death certificates, you've got your birth certificates. All of that happens in probate court. And that is a very busy section of probate court because you've got to qualify these people that want a gun license. You've got to make sure that they qualify to issue that license. I recognize those laws. I also feel very confident in a smooth, seamless transition between me and Judge Baker for a couple of reasons. My experience, Garrison and I have worked together for many, many years. I recognize his mannerism, his way with people. It's just so good. So let's talk a bit about judicial temperament. I'm going to read these off so I don't miss any of them. The American Bar Association says that judicial temperament means that a judge exhibit compassion, decisiveness, open-mindedness, sincerity, courtesy, patience, freedom from bias, and commitment to equal justice for all. I promise you, I have those qualities, and there is no reason that I will not continue to exhibit those qualities. I've worked hard with the judiciary. I've worked under some of the best judges ever through the years. Judge A.R. Kenyon, some may remember him, an exceptional judge. Judge Rick Story, Judge J.D. Smith, and I could go on forever. And certainly, very importantly, Judge Garrison Baker. I've told you briefly about me, about my background. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. And let me just say, I would certainly appreciate your vote for me, a very qualified candidate for your probate judge. Thank you.
Ms. Jackson, there actually is one question that came in for you. Why do you, or what is one reason that you want to be our probate judge?
Why do I want to be your probate judge?
Yes,
I
that
can give
is
you
the
a lot
question.
of reasons. They just wanted one reason. Let's see. I love White County. I love the judicial system, which I have been raised in, basically. I love serving the people. I have a servant's heart. I truly, if God has granted me one thing, he has blessed me with a servant's heart. And I want to continue to serve the people of White County.
Okay. Well, at this point in time, we're going to enter into the question and answer session. So, again, if you're watching this live, we'll keep taking questions as this session of the forum continues. But for right now, there were several questions that have been submitted via Facebook Live or via email to us. So the first question I want to ask is directed towards Robert Crumely. Robert, do you support the Religious Freedom Restoration Act?
I'm sorry, you lagged for a bit. What'd you say?
Do you support the Religious Freedom Restoration Act?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, the question wasn't too, it was a really vague question. I'll give you a vague answer.
Right.
If they ask what specifically in the Restoration Act I support, then I'll be happy to oblige.
Okay. Well, why don't we ask it like that then? What specifically do you support about the Religious Freedom Restoration Act?
Well, I'm not really too versed about all of what that pertains. I've mainly been concentrating on my campaign on property rights and individual liberties, and mainly completely undoing the tax code of what's been done within the past 20 years, and also education. Because my main focus is to repeal Common Core. But if you would tell that person, and I'll come back to you later with a more accurate and answer to this. Yeah, I'll respond to this question later in a different comment, or especially when I release my 25-step plan. I'll hammer this question to get that get that constituents question answered. But unfortunately, I'm not too versed on that piece of legislation.
Okay. Another question that was asked of you. This was also asked of Michael Boggus, but I'll ask you first, and then we'll go to him. How will you protect the Second Amendment?
So you know how the counties have been enacting a resolution, not and for all of us to have a Second Amendment sanctuary counties. Well, how about we unify those counties and unify the legislators and make the state of Georgia a Second Amendment sanctuary state, and make it where, because in that resolution, sure, the county governments won't do anything to infringe upon your Second Amendment rights, but still the state government and the federal government could march right up in there and violate their constitutional oath. So there needs to be some checks and balances with that resolution. We need to turn that resolution into a law, for one, and those agencies, whether it be the ATF or FBI or even the GBI, it can even be the city of Cleveland's police department. There needs to be some checks and balances on if an agency threatens a constitutional right of that individual or to any group of individuals without any probable cause of them causing harms or violence to others. That agency and those leaders within that agency need to be held responsible by other governing bodies within the state and local, or the local, state, and federal government. So there's nobody more pro Second Amendment than I am. I'm shoot. If I want to own a tank, I should be able to own a tank. That's the way I view the Second Amendment. It's the biggest threat to our government is an armed and educated populace. And if you take one away, they've already taken away our freedom of information, our freedom of expressions, and they're going after our Second Amendment. So as long as we got those two things, and we'll be good to go. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Mr. Crumely. Mr. Boggus, how will you support the Second Amendment?
Yes, sir. Well, first and foremost, any gun law is unconstitutional. Period. Second, I would abolish any kind of red flag law, Patriot Act, anything that's going against our Second Amendment right. I believe that we should be able to own whatever we want. Period. All the firearms that our government sells to foreign countries in wars should be brought back to the American citizens. The NFA Act should be abolished. We shouldn't be taxed on something that's already taxed. Like I said, my Second Amendment is always and forever. I carry that with me everywhere I go. My oath has never died, and it never will. I will always protect the Second Amendment, but there's also more amendments to the Constitution. We need to go back to the Bill of Rights. It's already been ratified. When we left the English governing, we should be back at the Bill of Rights, period. And all laws should fall under the Bill of Rights. If it is unconstitutional, it's non and void. I hope that answers the question, because I believe, honestly, all gun laws are unconstitutional.
Okay.
I believe you should be able to go to a cigarette machine, pull out an AR-15.
Amen to that, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Boggus.
So,
Also,
there you go. That's my answer.
another question for you, Mr. Boggus. How will you seek to curb illegal immigration?
How will I seek to curb it? First and foremost, our judicial system is kind of shot. We give these people a piece of paper with the hopes and dreams that they'll show back up to court. So to curb the illegal system, first and foremost, it's already in the Constitution. You got Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. If the government's not going to protect us, we can protect ourselves, and I think we should invoke that. But second of all, whenever we give them this piece of paper and they don't show up to court, we charge them $500 a day. When they're caught, if they don't pay that $500 a day, I mean, it's going to keep adding up per day till they're caught. And they have to pay it in full to get out of jail. If they can't pay it in full, they get bounced back over the border.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Boggus. A question for Carly Adam. Miss Adam, are you still with us?
I am. I sure am.
Okay. How would you have responded differently, if at all, to protecting our students from coronavirus?
I think that the school system has done a wonderful job, especially in the time frame that they were given. You have to think about that. The school system, not only our school system, but school systems all over the state and all over the nation, over a weekend, had to completely redo their model, had to completely go to online learning and, create new policies and procedures for that, for custodial staff, for nutrition staff. I think our system has done a fabulous job with their response to that, with creating that new curriculum over the weekend, with our nutrition staff feeding our families throughout this crisis, because otherwise some of those children would not have eaten. So I'm very proud of this county and how they have rolled out their plan for online learning. Being at RESA, I get to see how places all over the state have responded and are doing this. And let me tell you, it's not the same. It is we are above and beyond what the normal is in our state for how the response was. So, of course, I don't know the details. I'm not in the executive sessions. I'm not in Dr. Burkett's office when the decisions are made and know that background information, but I am very pleased with the response that our school system has had.
Okay. Another question for you. How will you continue to better the educational environment for White County students?
A little bit. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. How will you try to continue to better the educational environment for White County students?
White County's got some great things going on now. Their mental health initiative, and there are some things going on at the state level that are coming down the pipeline that are going to be a continuum of what White County's doing. Me as an individual, I think that in the coming months and the coming year, I think school is going to be different. I don't foresee school ever being normal again in the sense. So I think that with my connections and my knowledge and getting to see how other systems are doing it, I think that that's going to give me a perspective, a perspective that can just enhance it. I'm super proud of White County, and I'm super proud of what they're doing. I want to use my connections at the state level and use my knowledge of the education system to bring to bring to bring that state knowledge. I'm sorry, to bring that state knowledge down to us. I've got a frog in my throat. But continuing things like the mental health initiative, working harder for ag, the ag programs. In the state pipeline, there's some elementary ag type things, and then working with our county, our other county organizations, I think is going to be huge. I think working with our chamber for jobs, about agritourism and the wineries and small businesses, working with the mayor and the city councils about revitalizing downtown. I think all of that can come back to the school system, and when we work together, we can make some things happen, I believe.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Adam. Question for both Miss Jackson and Mr. Greene. What do you believe is the most important function of the probate judge's office?
You want me to go first? Who's first? You want
Uh,
to go first, Cam, or you want me to?
well, Miss Jackson, if you want to go first since you're unmuted, I guess, and then Mr. Greene, you can go after her.
Okay, good. Okay, ask me the question again.
What do you believe is the most
Ask,
important function of the office of the probate judge?
you know, something, I don't think it can be divided up into sections of importance. I think absolutely every function of that office is very important. Probating a will might not be important to somebody that wants to get married, but somebody that wants to get married, it's going to be real important to them to go there and get a marriage license. If somebody needs a copy of their birth certificate, they can go in there and get a copy of their birth certificate. If somebody has a misdemeanor charge in the county and they want to close it, that's important because that's where the judgment's passed on that. So, and of course, probating wills, intestate wills, all of these things are so important. I wouldn't pick one thing over the other to be more important. I think it's everything that's done in that office is very important.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Miss Jackson. Mr. Greene, what do you believe is the most important function of the office of the probate judge?
Okay. Same here. I believe that nothing has more merit than the other. I believe they're all important in the same aspect of importance. I mean, Carol said it, and I'll say it again. Everything that you go in, one thing's important for one person, and the other one may not be important in that one. And it's the same. I mean, it really is. And I don't believe any outweigh the other. I believe that office holds an importance of its own in a whole, and I believe everything in there is equal.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, a question for the whole panel, and we'll go in ABC order. So we'll let Miss Adam answer first, and then Mr. Boggus, then Mr. Crumely, then Mr. Greene, and then Miss Jackson. So for the whole panel, do you believe? How do you feel about the shelter-in-place initiatives, and do you believe that it is an acceptable time to begin relaxing it? So, Ms. Adam.
That's a great question. I listened, as I was getting ready for this and setting up, I listened to the governor's statements that he had on the news. And I'm not too certain that this is a great time to lax too much on the shelter in place. I know that we are seeing some downward trends, and I know that there are some very important businesses that do need to open back up, and we need to respect that. But I feel that we do need to continue to exercise extreme caution, especially, for our elderly and at-risk populations, so that we don't see a higher count in White County. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think when I looked at lunchtime, we were at 21 maybe, and that's 21 too many. So yeah. We still need to be careful. We have businesses that need to open up. We have families that need to feed, their kids and make their house payment, and that business is the only way to do so. But we still need to exercise some extreme caution.
Okay, thank you, Miss Adam. Mr. Boggus.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear. Can you repeat the question?
Yes, absolutely. How do you feel about the shelter-in-place initiatives, and do you believe that? Hang on, sorry. How do you feel about the shelter-in-place initiatives, and do you believe it is a good time to start relaxing them?
Well, actually, Brian Kip's supposed to be coming on and starting to relax it next week. I believe that we are going to have precautions. This particular virus frontline nurse, so I'm learning more and more about this COVID virus. It it does attack certain people. There's no doubt about it. We need to practice safe, cautious activities. Um, I believe that if businesses are going to open back up, they should provide their employees with proper PPE, mask, gloves, such as that. Um, the people that's going to come out, yeah, just keep a little distance between yourself. I believe this was all a bunch of hype to begin with, as far as it was fear mongering from the media. It's not as bad as they're claiming, but it's still pretty bad. It does actually target specific people of age, underlying conditions, and yeah, I think we should relax the state. Let the people go back to work. I mean, they need the money. They need the money. They need to get out. You stay in a house too long, you go stir crazy.
Okay.
That's my answer to that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Boggus. Um, Mr. Crumley.
So Benjamin Franklin once said, "Any society that will give a little liberty to gain a little security deserves neither liberty or security." And if this was originally, or excuse me, a serious like pandemic is portrayed to be, then the nation should have shut down everything. There's no essential businesses. I mean, nobody's social distancing. You go to Walmart, everybody's wearing these cloth masks. That won't stop the bacteria from spreading to one, or the virus from spreading from one to another. There's only one thing that could stop a virus from spreading one to another, and that's just uh, well, two things actually. Wearing chemical warfare PPE, not this medical professional stuff. That still won't protect you from the virus, or being completely isolated. And if it was a true threat to American lives, if when everybody's has a 98% recover rate, especially that gentleman that was 100 plus years old and with underlying conditions and by the grace of God survived from that. Um, I think it was just a huge ploy to see what the government can get away with and it's really scary. And don't get me wrong, we should take every precaution that needs to be taken to sterilize ourselves, like keep distances from each other, wash your hands. I would avoid physical contact, stuff like that. But you look out in the community, all the WalMarts are packed, all the Lowe's are packed, every restaurant's packed. You go to any public place, nobody's practicing that order, and they haven't been from the beginning. And so if we were all going to be exposed, one of our family members or friends have already been exposed to that huge crowd already, and have came back and exposed themselves to us. So if they were really going to shut down everything for 2 weeks, and then that'd be it. But after drawing it out 1, 2, 3 months or however long, absolutely not. We need to open up the state, open up back our economy. There was no reason to shut it down to begin with.
I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crumley. Mr. Greene.
Yeah. Well, I am on kind of on the front lines of this as well, working at the funeral home, seeing many people that in Atlanta, the cause of the deaths, and it's a scary situation. It really is, especially for us and having to deal with somebody that may have the virus that we don't always know about because nothing is always told to us. So, and then on the other aspect of it, it's a catch-22. I see it hurting our economy. It is a serious virus, but our economy has to get back up and running. And the effects in 6 months down the road, who knows what's going to happen happen on the effects of our economy. I I'm taking it serious as serious as the government is telling us to take it serious. I don't also believe that we are being told everything. I believe that there may be, if it is more serious, we need to be told it's more serious. So if we are already taking steps to open back up the country, I hope that it is the right step because I am not informed enough to make that decision. So that's all I was going to say. Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Jackson?
Thank you. Um, I agree with Cam. I'm not informed enough to ever make that decision either. Uh, I think that decision needs to be made by the people that have all the information. What would I like to do for the people of White County that need to work? I would love to see them be able to go back to work. The people that are in danger of losing a life, of losing a friend, I don't want to submit them to that either if it's not time. As soon as it's time, I think that we should absolutely, as soon as it's time, we should be informed, we should stay informed, we should make it our business to be informed as people that are running for public office. But if we don't have all the information, I don't think we could ever, ever, ever make that decision for the betterment of every citizen of the state of Georgia or for White County.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We have time for one more question. So this is also another question for the whole panel. We'll go in reverse order this time. We'll start with Ms. Jackson and then go to Mr. Greene, then Mr. Crumely, Mr. Boggus, and then end on Ms. Adam. So the final question is, what will you do to try to better White County as a whole?
To better White County as a whole, well, let me, as a probate judge, I can't speak to that except to do the things that the law requires to be done in that office. But as a human being and as a citizen of this county, I can tell you what I could do. Agriculture is the #1 business. I would like to see us promote agriculture. I would like to see us give the support to the people that are in the agriculture business. I would like to see them have tourism. We really rely so much on tourism. I would like for us to be able to promote tourism while keeping everybody safe. Again, that's the business that's hurt so bad with this pandemic situation that we're dealing with. I would like to see nobody have to go up on their taxes. Nobody wants more taxes. I certainly don't. That's the kind of thing that I would like to see. Help the citizens, help the businesses that are our greatest draw, play off of those businesses, do things to help them. The people that are just trying to get started, our young entrepreneurs that are doing so much to get started. We've got a business here in White County that helps entrepreneurs. I think we should pat Grace on the back every time we have a chance. We've just got all sorts of ways that we can help White County, but I think we need to take them in the order in which they come and support them accordingly.
Okay. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Jackson. And Mr. Greene?
As it pertains to the probate judge, I will give it my all. I will give everything that I got to this, and in turn, try to do the best for each citizen of White County, and follow the law. Follow the law as the probate court states, and I will do the best that I can do. That's all I can. That's all I can really say.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Greene. Mr. Crumely?
Yeah, so I'm a constitutional conservative. My political slogan is more leadership and less politics. We got to get rid of all this bureaucracy and all this headache, cut the red tape. We got to protect our property rights. I cannot stand, the local and state government negotiating our property rights away for funding. And that it really, really hurts me. And we got to cut our overtime tax because you're already working 40 hours a week for the man anyway. Why not bear some of the fruits of your labor? And we also got to repeal the inventory taxes on small businesses because paying taxes with the money that they earn to buy products that they're paying taxes for, and paying taxes to keep that product, and paying taxes to sell that product. It's just, it's ridiculous. We got to repeal all the inventory taxes because on small businesses, and we have to repeal Common Core. I went to White County High School. They were so everybody learns a different way. You can't The government can't teach or can't tell a teacher to teach in a certain way because there's multiple different ways of learning. And if that one teacher goes against that certain way that the government tells them to teach, they get reprimanded for it. So the better for our education for our children, we got to get rid of Common Core, and we got to empower them to stay in this community, to start small businesses. And I'm the only candidate who's sworn to donate my entire state salary to empower the young people in our community to start up businesses and to get involved in local government. I'm going to fight for term limits on partisan and nonpartisan positions all across the state. It prevents racketeering. It prevents corruption. It prevents one person or one party being in favor of another party. We have to bring more jobs to the area. Like I said before, I don't want to bring corporations in this area, because if you look at the corporations that have been brought to this area, they're all the people that are making bukus of money, they're all outside hires. The people around here still aren't making the money that they need to be making to live their sustainable life. And so I want to empower those people to start businesses in this area, to stay in this area. And like I said, we got to fight for our Second Amendment, our statewide Second Amendment right. And more importantly, out of everything I just said to you, we have to hold our state and our local politicians accountable for their actions. Democrat, Republican, that doesn't matter anymore. It's about integrity. And like I said, I'm a constitutional conservative, and this is what I plan to bring to White and Habersham County.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Crumely. Mr. Boggus.
Yes, sir. I don't live in White County. I did do a lot of work up there with North Georgia Network Connect. It's a beautiful county. I drive through it often. I go to Helen a lot. So with White County, I would suggest more incentive for small business. Better incentive on taxes to where they can open small business. You can get a marriage license and get divorced quicker than you can put a business in your backyard. Nobody should tell you where you can and can't do your business. So with that, everything in White County looks pretty good. I know there's a few situations with drug problems there, but all in all, White County is pretty damn nice. But I do like a lot of Robbie's answers. I really do.
Well, thank you.
That's my answer for it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bogus. And then Miss Adam.
I think what I talked about, the communication and collaboration piece, I think that's going to be huge as the question pertains to the Board of Education. That is essential in order for all of us to make educated decisions that affect both the school system and the county as a whole. And like I said before, I commit to working with those different county organizations, the sheriff's office, the county commissioners, the mayor, the city, the chamber, the city of Helen. I think everybody working together is going to be a huge piece in making White County the best that it can be. Like Mr. Bogus said, it's already pretty nice, but we need to keep it that way and keep it the best that it can be, and hold our students, accountable, and hold our county accountable to helping them. And I feel that I can do that. I can communicate with all of those organizations and offices, and make this county the best that it can be.
All right, thank you, Miss Adam. At this point in time, we're going to end our open candidate forum. I want to personally thank each of the 5 candidates for joining us this evening. I want to remind every single voter in White County to go out and vote in the upcoming primary, which has been pushed back. For more information about the new voting dates, please visit the Secretary of State's website or contact us directly, and we'll be happy to provide you with that additional information. Thank you again for joining us tonight, and thank you for your support of YRNG, and especially as we endeavor in these new ways of getting information out there because of coronavirus. We hope that you'll join us next Tuesday for our upcoming sheriff debate between the 5 candidates for sheriff in White County. It'll also be presented in this manner as tonight's forum. So thank you again for the candidates, and thank you for everyone who has joined on this conference. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That is the end of our question period. I'd like to thank all the candidates for your participation. I'd like to thank all the audience members for tuning in and providing some of the more important issues of the day. And I wish all of you the best of luck in your campaign. I'll turn it back over to James King, the chairman of the Northeast Georgia Young Republicans.
Ron said, I do want to echo Ron's statements, thanking everyone for their attendance today, both the candidates who were here and also the audience members who watched digitally. I do realize that this is certainly an interesting medium in which we presented this debate, but as my I believe in adapting, improvising, and overcoming. And so that's certainly what we try to do now with these unusual times. So again, thank you for tuning in. Stay safe, and God bless. Okay.